What's up, guys? It's Fee Chief here, and welcome back to another FC26 video. Today, we are going to be talking about EA's plans to slow down the power curve in FC26. This is something I've been really passionate about, and I think is probably the biggest problem with FC and FIFA over the last 2 to 3 years, is that the power curve just moves too quickly. And what that means, especially at the beginning of the game, is that gold cards are phased out of the game too quickly. There's far too many promo cards, SBCs, and objectives, and it's just way too easy to get packs and get the best players in the game. And it kind of removes the ability to grind Ultimate Team over time because you can get to a 99% team, basically achieve anything in the game in just a short period of time. So you're able to get basically whatever you want outside of those top, the best players in the game. So today we've got a couple pieces directly from EA, from Foot Economist, and a few interviews of how they're going to plan to slow the power curve down. So let's go ahead and dive into this and see what they have to say.
Speaking of other things, FC 25, I think the power curve, I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday too, but
Yeah.
like in terms of the hardcore user base, which again, a lot of these guys are here that are watching, like it felt like it started really fast. Like we got out of gold cards real quick. And then we got to Team of the Year, and we got Team of the Year cards and Team of the Year Bale SBC and that Team of the Year Blueprint Evo.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, this is insane. But then it just kind of made everything after that taper off, and it didn't feel as worth it. So, like, what was the feedback that you got for that, and how does that implement itself in 26 to help improve that a little bit?
Yeah.
Because I know it's got to be a crazy way to calculate it throughout the whole year. So many decisions with all the promos and cards. So.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. I'm glad we're getting into this one because there's a lot to talk about here. And I know like this group is probably like the perfect, like your audience is the perfect audience to talk about this kind of stuff. I think so, generally speaking, just kind of like high level, we heard the feedback this year around like the power curve moving too quickly. I think, there's a couple times of the year in particular, as you mentioned, sort of at the beginning of the year and then sort of like team of the year into like team of the season time. Were two periods of the year where we moved really quickly. And I think as we head into FC 26, we are going to be making a concerted effort to slow things down, but I do want to get into sort of like what it actually means to slow things down.
Yeah, sure.
But before I do that, though, I want to talk about sort of like what are we actually trying to like achieve when we like say slow it down. And I think there's maybe sort of two example problem spaces or like kind of like experiences that I would like cite. The first is that and I feel this probably just as much as you guys, like when you buy a player item or you like you pack a player item or you earn a player item for whatever it is, right? Get it from an SBC, premium pass, standard seasonal ladder. It's frustrating when that is like your new best striker and then it like stays your new best striker for like a week. Right? And then like the next promo, there's something that is like just as good if not better. And that's frustrating. You don't get to like enjoy sort of the investment or the time that you spend.
I feel like half the fun in Ultimate Team is having those players in your team that you use over time and you stack up goals and assists with them and you become like attached to the cards. That's what makes us like cards from past years. Like I always talk about this, I think it was FIFA 17 League SBC Lacazette card. The reason I like that card so much is number one, obviously it was a good card, but it was a good card that I could use for months on end because there wasn't every single week a new upgraded card that just basically rendered him useless because he was no longer up to scratch.
To like get something.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we want to find ways that we can extend out the life, if you will, of some of the items. That's kind of the one of the things that we're looking to do. The other piece is that just directionally, it's become a really like risky value proposition or sort of like investment, if you will, to like buy an item off the transfer market, especially if they're an expensive item, and then hold that for an extended period of time.
That's facts.
And that's like kind of frustrating. Like you see a lot of people like they basically just have like untradeable squads, or a lot of people just run untradeable squads because
This is like a massive problem in my opinion, and this is probably the biggest piece that I think fixing the power curve, slowing it down, will solve in the game, is that I could not tell you guys the last time that I bought a player to use in my squad. Let me know in the comments if you're like buying players off the market to use, but I feel like literally everybody uses fully untradables squads of SBC players, Evos, and stuff they've packed in untradeable packs. I don't think anybody sits there and buys cards off the market because it's just like they just crash in price because when something new comes out in the next promo, it's rendered useless. It feels like if you bought a player to use in your squad in a week, they're just gonna crash in price. So why would I even consider it? I want to bring up like if I wanted to get this Thunderstruck Foden when he came out, he's my favorite player. He's got a sick new promo card. They gave him an upgraded weak foot. I mean, if I bought this guy for 2 million, I'm losing 200K with it, 250K within a week. And then in a month, like he's down 50% here. And I know stuff has to go down over time because eventually cards are going to get better, but it's just like everything immediately crashes. You cannot buy players off the market because they're just going to drop in price. This is a huge point.
They just don't want to worry
Guilty.
about, yeah, they just don't want to worry about the fact that like, hey, like this item might just like collapse in price tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, those are kind of like the two things that we're taking back and kind of going like, all right, well, we want people to feel like confident engaging in the transfer market, buying items, putting them into their squads. And we also want to have like, just basically allow players to like enjoy sort of the items that they go and earn, and just kind of like get used to them, sort of grow affinity with them, etc. So anyway, with that in mind, we're going to be looking to slow down the power curve. There's a couple things that I would you could expect to happen as a result. The first is that like the lifespan, if you will, of some of the like base content at the beginning of the year is hopefully going to extend.
Awesome.
So you're looking at like gold items sticking around for a little bit longer, base heroes for a little bit longer. Same thing with the icons. Cool. The other piece is that especially as we get into sort of like a sort of like a Black Friday through holiday window, and then like team of the year into team of the season, that kind of window, you could expect like the pace at which we're going to like upgrade the stats of the players in those campaigns is probably going to come down a bit as well.
Okay.
Now, exactly what that looks like is still to be confirmed, but you can kind of think of it as the ways that we're actually going to like mechanically do that, if you will. And this is something that like obviously we're going to need to stay close with folks like yourself and the community to make sure that like we're doing this in a way that like feels good for everybody. Is that you can expect things like the rewards that you get for objectives or game modes, or perhaps the seasonal ladder, or maybe the power of the items that you can create through evolutions are going to come down, right? Like, so to make sure.
This is a massive point, and I hope people don't get upset about it because, like, season pass stuff, objectives, rewards and champs and rivals need to be toned down. And people are going to be like, oh, they're taking away rewards. It's pay to win, all this nonsense. If everybody's rich, nobody's rich. If everybody can get all these packs and whatnot for just make it super easy, then like I said earlier, everybody can get to this 99% team super easily. And again, if everybody's rich, nobody's rich. There needs to be a reason to grind the game over time. And the current situation, how easy it is to get packs from objectives from the season pass, to get rewards, it's just way too easy in this game. And we need to tone stuff down. And I really hope the community doesn't give a bunch of backlash like, oh, they're making it pay to win, they're taking away rewards, because this is a good thing.
So that we can actually slow things down, we have to sort of like decrease sort of the accessibility, if you will, of some of that content. But the important point there is that it's not going to come down, and it's going to come down for everybody, right? It's like there's kind of the mantra of like, if everybody's rich, nobody's rich kind of thing. If everybody has like all that top tier content, then you have to like keep the treadmill spinning really fast in order for that to be a thing. So basically, like that's kind of what you can expect. Sort of that launch is that like the overall sort of like mode rewards and some of the other things that you can earn are going to come down, at least compared to last year, and that'll allow us to sort of like slow things down.
Okay.
As I said, that's going to be one that we expect, like the actual sort of delivery of that one, and that, and the tuning around that, and sort of the rewards that we set up. It's going to be important that we try and get that one right, and continue to listen to community feedback around that one, and we'll adjust if folks don't like it, of course. But yeah, that's part of what we're hoping to use as sort of the mechanism to sort of, as I said, slow down the power curve.
Yeah, that brings up a couple things to mind for me. Like, if you think about slowing down upgrading cards, but still wanting to release a lot of content, that's got to be a tough calculation of how do we still release engaging content that feels interesting, that people are interested in, without, making it so much better that it's boosting the curve that
Yeah.
much. So
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great question from Nate, and this is something I've thought on. Like when things are slowed down and there's not as many rewards and stuff, stuff is also more satisfying when you get upgrades. Like evolutions right now, it's like, oh, I get +2 pace and +3 shooting and +5 defending and all these different stats. If everything's toned down and they just release an evolution that's like I can get +4 finishing on my striker, that would feel awesome to just take my gold Marmouche and be able to add 4 finishing on him and he gets some special design or something. It Stuff is going to feel more rewarding when it's rarer to have big upgrades as well, which I think is something people need to take into account.
Maybe if I could add one more thing too there, because I just saw some things in the chat.
Yeah.
Like the idea here too is that as we slow things down, we want to make it the idea here is to make it so that we don't lose some of the sort of directional gains, if you will, that we've made in like accessibility of content. Like if you were to go back to, I don't know, FIFA 18,
Okay.
you know, the gap between folks that have a lot of time to play the game and don't have a lot of time to play the game, or folks that like, you know, have you decide to spend money in the game or don't decide to spend money in the game, was much larger than it is today.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And so even though we are talking about taking down sort of like the, you know, the amount of rewards that you get in like any given game mode or for evolutions or through SPCs or, you know, whatever it is, right? What we do still want to maintain though is like the fact that if you are just a road to glory player and you're not going to spend any money, you can, you know, compete with folks that do decide to spend money.
Sure.
So I agree with his last point there. The point I don't agree with is earlier Jamie said the gap between people who have a lot of time and don't have a lot of time to play. And I personally think that gap should be big because that means that you have a reason to grind the game constantly. If you have time to play, there's rewards to go out and get, there's upgrades that you can achieve. Now, those upgrades can be slower, which is what turning the power curve down is. But this idea that there shouldn't be a big gap between people that have time to play the game and people that don't have time, I completely disagree with. And I think it's part of the problem with the game now is that it's, again, it's so easy to get stuff that then it feels like there's nothing to grind for.
So that's going to be something. I just want to make sure that that's good. I saw a couple of comments in chat
Yeah.
about that. Like the goal here is not like a result of this. We will have failed if the result of this is that it becomes more pay to win, right?
Okay.
Like that's definitely
I
not
agree
the
with
direction that
that.
we want to go. It's meant to just sort of calibrate everybody down sort of at the same rate so that the speed of things can sort of just slow down and people can enjoy the items that they have for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Speaking of the season pass, that's obviously been a huge thing in 25, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday.
And then I think they just kind of go on to say the season pass is going to get toned down as well in terms of the rewards. So I think that really lays the land well. And then I want to get into this second interview from the Foot Weekly podcast here, where they talk about the power curve as well.
I'm just going to talk just generally about the power curve and just kind of give some context around that because not everybody would have watched that live stream. And then I'll talk about the Evo stuff. So so generally speaking, we heard a lot of feedback last year about the pace of the curve, the pace of progression. A lot of players essentially telling us like, hey, it's moving too fast. And we've seen just directionally over the past, like, let's call it, 4 or 5 years that as we've sort of accelerated the number of campaigns or what, you guys refer to as promos, we refer to them as campaigns, promos that we have and sort of the incremental power that each of those campaigns provide in terms of the attribute boost that all the items have. And the accessibility that comes with those that, hey, like it's moving too quickly now, right? Like we've had this increase and players have been excited by that, but now we're at a point in FC25 where players were essentially telling us, especially at certain parts of the year, like from launch to sort of holiday-ish, and then especially like from team of the year into team of the season, like, hey, it's moving too fast. I can't keep up. It was one of the pieces of feedback that we heard a lot. There was also the feedback that it was sort of like I don't have time to enjoy my investments from either a time perspective, like I earn this thing by playing a game mode or or getting an objective or completing an SBC or even spending real world dollars, right? Like I only have like 2 weeks until this item's going to be.
That's again the whole like building an attachment to players that you get and getting when you grind to get one of the best players that's out there right now, being able to use that card for an extended period of time.
Behind the power curve again because there's a brand new item that's just better than it. And so what we want to be able to do is find ways to slow that down. And there's a couple of places, as I said, that we want to really slow down specifically. The first one is like sort of that launch to Black Friday window. One of our key goals is that we want gold items and like lower end historical content, so like icons and heroes, we want those to last longer, right? Like to be in the power curve and be viable for longer, right? Like how long can Raphael Leao stick around in the meta as compared to last year? So that's one thing. And then also, like, as you get into sort of like the team of the year and team of the season window, there's a couple of things that we want to slow down the curve there as well, because we thought it moved particularly fast in that window compared to previous years. So with all that in mind, there comes questions where like, well, how are you going to do that, right? Like, how do you actually make that happen, but also make sure the game doesn't get boring? And I think one of the things that's perhaps a misconception right now is that we're going to do less promos or less campaigns, like less squad releases that happen on Friday. Is sort of the other way to kind of think about it. At least our current thinking is that's not going to be the case. We're still going to have like a high density of campaigns and campaign content. However, the way that we're going to make sure that is set up in a way such that the power curve does slow down is that we're going to rethink the way that we actually boost the attributes of those items. Historically, you'd have these big moments like a Black Friday, a Winter Wild Cards, a Team of the Year, Team of the Season, etc., where the actual stat boosts were huge, right? Like compared to the previous items that were available in the ecosystem, these were big steps up in terms of power. But then you also had these campaigns in between that had incremental boosts on top of even just the ones that would happen in like those big moments, like a Black Friday or a Winter Wild Cards or a Team of the Year. And you didn't have these moments where you could like just sort of savor or sort of like sit back and enjoy the items that you would have earned through those campaigns. And so one of the changes that we're going to be making this year is that we're going to be looking to do more like step change type sort of power curves. So we'll have these big sort of tentpole moments, if you will, like a Black Friday, Winter Wild Cards, Team of the Year, Team of the Season, etc. But then in between that, we're going to look to, instead of just iterating again in terms of like the best item available in any given position group, we'll then look to say like, well, the campaigns after those kinds of like big tentpole moments will be more like lateral in nature. So like
That's going to be really interesting for the market because let's say, like, if you're going and you're starting with gold cards, just being fine and being usable right up until Black Friday, I think the paint would help illustrate this really well here. Like, you're going to have these massive crashes when you have those big step increases. So let's say this is release, this is Black Friday. This is team of the year. Like, and your market, when you're at release here, you're gonna have, just like a steady market, steady market. You're gonna get to Black Friday, and now all these cards that have been out for the first 2 months of the game are just gonna crash because everything that comes out for Black Friday is gonna be the best items compared to everything that's already been released. And then you're gonna have these Black Friday items that are more expensive, and they're just gonna hold steady, and then you get to team of the year, and these things are just going to crash because then you have new things that are coming out that are the new best items. And then you have all these that are just going to like hold steady. And then team of the season comes and they're all just going to crash. So you're going to have these massive market crashes because every item that's already out is going to be rendered useless compared to the new cards, which is really interesting. And I like the idea of it. It's going to be I have no clue how it's going to play out, actually.
the actual boosts that you're getting there are not necessarily going to iterate on the best items in the game, but perhaps they're going to be iterating on the best item in certain squad building niches. So perhaps we didn't release a new best right back in the game during Black Friday, or rather, we released a new best right back in the game during Black Friday, but there isn't a new best right back in the Premier League, right? So like you can kind of like expand squad building depth, if you will, when you get into the campaigns that come after Black Friday, in between Black Friday and Winter Wildcards, when our next step up would be. So that's kind of some nuance there. There's some other ways that we're going to think about sort of the sort of extending the power curve and having that step change function. But that's a key just difference or sort of clarification I want to make around the way that we're going to still have the same number of promos, but also not move the power curve quite as quickly. Because I think the feedback that we keep seeing is if we decrease the number of promos, people get bored, right? Like people essentially go like, well, there's nothing to do this week. I'm not going to log in. So that was a very long-winded answer to the first part of your question. I'll pause if there's anything that Rich you want to add or any other follow-up questions, and then I can answer your question about EVOs.
So that kind of hits everything I wanted to hit in this video. I feel like the idea is really strong here. I love where their heads are at. The whole step increase thing concerns me a little bit in terms of how the market's going to act and these big sort of resets in the game where all prior items are almost rendered useless because every new item is going to be like a step above. But slowing down the power curve is a great thing. It's something I've been asking for years. So moving in the right direction, them hearing out the feedback is all positives. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. But guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.